Welcome to the TechUP 503 podcast by Noticias El Salvador. In this space for conversation and reflection, we explore current events from El Salvador and around the world together. You can support this project via PayPal and through the links found in the description. Find US on your favorite platform. We are on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, virtually everywhere as TechUP 503. Thank you so much.
It's great to be back.
Grab your coffee or, looking at these headlines this morning, maybe something a little stronger would be in order. It is Thursday, February 5th, 2026.
It is a heavy one today.
It really is. I mean, if you're stepping outside in San Salvador right now, you're looking at a high of 29 degrees Celsius, clear skies. Physically, it's just a beautiful day. But then you look at the geopolitical radar, it's freezing. It feels like we are looking at a structural shift in global security that, honestly, we haven't really seen since the Soviet Union collapsed.
That is not an exaggeration. Not at all. We are literally watching the removal of the safety nets, the guardrails that have, for better or worse, held the world order together for 30 plus years. As a financial analyst, I look for stability, for predictable patterns. And today, those patterns are basically being erased.
Exactly. And that is our mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to read you the wires. We're going to try and connect the dots for you between a nuclear treaty in Russia, a mine somewhere in Brazil, and yes, the price of Bitcoin in your wallet.
Are they all connected?
They are. So here's the roadmap for today. We are starting with the expiration of the New START treaty. The nuclear guardrails are officially off.
It's terrifying.
Then we're going to pivot to the Rare Earths Alliance and look at why the United States suddenly abandoning its own free market principles to fight China on technology.
And we absolutely have to talk about that odd couple summit, Gustavo Petro and Donald Trump. That one meeting tells you everything you need to know about the new pragmatic era of Latin American politics. It's a story of oil, necessity, and some very strange bedfellows.
Plus, we have the domestic briefing deportation numbers that, they challenge the prevailing economic narrative here in El Salvador and a market crash that is seriously testing the country's entire Bitcoin strategy.
A major test.
But let's start with the heavy hitter, the one that sets the tone for everything else.
The end of arms control as we know it.
As of today, the New START treaty has officially expired. For anyone who hasn't tracked this since, high school civics class, or maybe hasn't thought about it since the Cold War, let's just establish exactly what we've lost.
It's important to get the basics right.
The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty was the last remaining pact that regulated the nuclear arsenals of the world's two biggest superpowers.
And regulating is the key word there. It wasn't just a suggestion or a handshake. It was a binding, verifiable, legal framework.
Correct. It limited the United States and Russia to 1,550 deployed strategic nuclear warheads each. But maybe more importantly, it limited the delivery systems, the missiles, the bombers, the subs to 700.
The things that actually carry the bombs.
Exactly. As of this morning, those limits are legally void. Russia has stated that since the United States did not respond formally to their last-ditch proposals, the obligations no longer bind either party.
They kicked the can down the road until there was no more road.
Right. And now they've declared readiness for, and this is the quote, military technical measures, though they add that they will, of course, act responsibly.
Acting responsibly is a very, very subjective term. You're talking about thousands of nuclear weapons. I want to dig into the numbers here because the scale of this is just terrifying, and the financial implications of a new unbridled arms race they're massive.
Lay it out for us. What are we looking at?
Okay, so look at the raw inventory. Russia currently holds the largest stockpile in the world. We're talking about 5,459 warheads. That's a mix of deployed, reserved, and retired.
Okay.
The United States follows with roughly 3,700 total, of which about 1,770 are actively deployed.
And the rest of the world?
The rest of the world is a footnote. Together, these two nations hold 87% of all the world's nuclear weapons. Under the treaty, we knew where the deployed ones were, we had inspectors on the ground, we had constant data exchanges.
And that's the key part, right? It wasn't just about the number, it was about the verification. The trust, but verified.
Precisely. That is the immediate tangible thing that's gone. The verification. Think of it this way. For the last few decades, we've been playing a game of chess.
Okay.
In chess, you can see all the pieces on the board. You know your opponent has a rook over there, a knight there. You might not know their next move, their strategy, but you know their capabilities and their positions. it's transparent.
Right, you can count the silos with satellites, you can see the bombers on the tarmac.
Exactly. But now, we are moving from a game of chess to a game of poker. In poker, you don't know what's in the other player's hand. You have to guess. You have to bluff. You have to assume. And in geopolitics, when you assume, you almost always have to assume the worst-case scenario.
Because the cost of being wrong is too high.
It's unthinkable. So this means you start preparing for threats that might not even exist, which in turn leads to your opponent seeing your preparations and preparing for you. It's a classic security dilemma, a feedback loop of paranoia.
So let's drill down on that worst-case scenario for a minute. If I'm a military planner sitting in the Pentagon today and I can no longer send an inspector to a Russian missile base, what am I specifically worried about? What keeps me up at night?
Oh, it's one acronym, MIRVs. MIRV, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles.
Right, the ones that split apart.
They split apart. Essentially, a single missile acts like a bus. It flies up into space. And then it doesn't release one warhead, it releases 5 or 6 or maybe 10 different warheads that can all be programmed to hit different cities.
And the treaty put a cap on how many warheads could be on any single missile.
Correct. Without that treaty, Russia could take a missile that currently have 1 warhead, and they could retrofit it with 5 or 8.
Yeah.
From a satellite photo, the silo looks exactly the same. The missile is the same size. But its destructive power has just increased 500 or 800%.
And without an inspector on the ground to physically open the hatch and look?
You have no idea. You have to assume that missile is fully loaded.
And if they assume it's fully loaded, they have to build more defenses or more of their own MIRV'd missiles to counter it.
Which brings us to the money. This is the financial so what. We are seeing the official, formal ends of the peace dividend.
Can you explain that term for us?
Sure. Since the end of the Cold War, governments could justify spending less on massive nuclear arsenals and more on other things, infrastructure, healthcare, education. That extra money was the peace dividend. Well, that's over. We're about to see a massive, massive injection of capital into the defense industrial base.
Which I guess sounds good for defense stocks, maybe? For shareholders of those companies?
In the short term, absolutely. Companies like Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, they're going to see enormous contracts. Their stocks will probably go up. But macroeconomically, for the country as a whole, it's a disaster.
How so?
Because building nuclear weapons is, from an economic standpoint, effectively burning money. It produces no follow-on economic value other than deterrence. It sucks up capital and, more importantly, it sucks up highly skilled scientific and engineering talent that could be going to renewable energy or biotech or software.
It creates a distortion in the economy. So instead of building bridges, you're building silos.
And you're maintaining them forever. The maintenance costs on these systems are astronomical. We're talking about technology that needs to be ready to fire at a moment's notice, 24/7, for decades. The personnel costs, the security, the environmental cleanup costs. It's a black hole for the national budget. It's inflationary and it explodes sovereign debt.
And it's not just the hardware, the weapons themselves. We're also hearing reports that the communication channels are breaking down. The red phone style hotlines, they're becoming reactive, not preventative.
And that is where the risk of error, of accidental war, just skyrockets. During the Cold War, we had close calls, absolutely. But today, you have to introduce new variables.
Like what?
Like artificial intelligence in early warning systems. Like hypersonic missiles that reduce the decision time for a president from 30 minutes down to maybe 5 minutes. If you don't have a treaty, you don't have inspections, you don't have trust, and your AI system tells you it has detected a launch, what do you do?
Do you trust it, or do you wait and risk annihilation?
But the margin for error is razor thin, thinner than it has ever been.
It is genuinely terrifying to think about. But we have to ask the obvious question. Why did we let this happen? Why didn't the United States just renew the treaty?
It comes down to the elephant in the room.
China.
The China factor. The United States administration's position was that any new treaty had to include China.
And China's response was basically, no thanks.
Right. Their argument is, look, we have about 600 warheads. Which, to be fair, is more than enough city-destroying power. But compared to the 5,000 of Russia or the 3,700 of the United States, it's tiny.
They say it's not a fair comparison.
They say, why should we limit our arsenal at this low level when you two are miles ahead? Come back to us when you've reduced your arsenals down to our size.
So from the perspective of the United States, they felt handcuffed. They were locked in this bilateral treaty with Russia, limiting their growth, while China was completely free to expand its arsenal as much as it wanted.
points, exactly. From a strategic planner standpoint in Washington, a bilateral treaty just didn't make sense in what they see as a trilateral world. But the result of that logic is that now nobody has any limits. It is a complete normative vacuum, an arms race free-for-all.
The global reaction has been, well, as grim as you'd expect. Antonio Guterres at the UN is calling it a grave moment. France is calling for control, but let's be honest, they lack the leverage here. This is a game for the giants.
And the giants have decided to tear up the rulebook.
Which actually segues perfectly into our next topic. Because while the old nuclear rules are being torn up, a whole new set of economic rules are being written. At the same time the nuclear treaty was expiring, a major summit was taking place in Washington. The key players were the United States, Japan, and the European Union, and their objective was crystal clear: break China's monopoly on critical minerals and rare earths.
And this is arguably more important for our daily lives than even the nuclear issue, believe it or not.
Because these materials, they're in everything.
Absolutely everything. The phone in your hand, the battery in your electric vehicle, the magnets in the wind turbine powering your house, and yes, the guidance systems on those hypersonic missiles we were just talking about.
And China's dominance it's overwhelming.
It's a chokehold.
Yeah.
Right now, China produces 61% of the world's rare earths. But that's not even the whole story. They do about 85% of the processing. So even if you mine it somewhere else, you probably have to send it to China to be refined.
And the United States.
The United States produces only about 15.5%. It's a massive strategic vulnerability.
So what's the strategy to fix it? Vice President J.D. Vance presented the plan in Washington, and it was interesting to see his demeanor. He dropped that usual combative America First tone for a very cooperative, alliance-building one.
He has to. They can't solve this alone.
He proposed a free trade zone for critical minerals, but with a very important twist: price floors.
Okay, let's unpack price floors, because this is where it gets really interesting economically, and it shows a huge shift in thinking.
Go for it.
Usually, the United States preaches pure free markets. Let supply and demand decide the price. Adam Smith's invisible hand. But here, they are doing the complete opposite. They are intervening to set a minimum price.
Why? Why do that?
Because of how China has weaponized the market for years. Here's how they do it. Say a new rare earth mine opens up in the United States or Australia. The Mountain Pass mine in California is a perfect example of this.
Okay.
As soon as that Western mine gets up and running, China can just flood the global market with its own state-subsidized cheap rare earths. They deliberately drop the price so low that the American or Australian mine goes bankrupt because their production costs are higher. They can't compete.
So they bleed them out financially.
Bleed them out. Then, once the Western mine is forced to close, China jacks the price right back up again. It's classic predatory pricing. It's a weaponized market designed to kill any competition.
So the price floor is a shield against that.
Exactly. J.D. Vance is proposing that this new alliance, the U.S., Europe, Japan, and others, agrees that they will never buy these critical minerals below a certain price. This effectively guarantees a minimum level of profitability for any new mine that opens in, say, the United States or Australia or Brazil.
It's like a safety net for investors.
It is. It's the government telling investors, look, if you build this mine, if you put up the billions of dollars it takes, we promise that China won't be allowed to bankrupt you with market manipulation.
That is a massive, massive shift in economic policy. It's not free trade. It's managed trade. It's strategic trade.
It is the death of the neoliberal free market consensus that has ruled global economics since the 1990s. The government is stepping in to set prices because national security demands it. And they're not just talking. The United States government is putting its money where its mouth is. They are investing $1.6 billion directly into a company called USA Rare Earth. And they are buying equity stakes in other mining companies. They are essentially nationalizing the financial risk of building this new supply chain.
And this new strategy, it drags Latin America right into the center of the storm.
It puts it front and center. I mean, look at the guest list for this summit in Washington. It wasn't just the usual G7 crowd. It was Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay.
Argentina's already on board, right? They signed a critical minerals agreement. And Brazil holds the second largest rare earth reserves in the entire world.
Yes, but here's the catch. Their production is lagging way behind. They have the stuff in the ground, but they don't have the massive industrial infrastructure for processing it yet.
So the United States looks at Brazil and sees the answer.
They see a potential way out of their dependence on China. This places South America at the absolute center of the US-China tech war. If you're Brazil or Argentina right now, you are suddenly the most popular person at the dance, and two very aggressive, very rich suitors are fighting over you.
Which gives them a ton of leverage if they play their cards right. But let's talk about the challenge in a place like Brazil. It's one thing to have the ore in the ground. It's a whole other thing to get it out, process it, and ship it. That takes years and billions of dollars.
It takes years, billions of dollars, and it takes technology transfer. And here's the other dirty secret. Processing rare earths is environmentally messy. It can be toxic.
Right.
China was willing to basically ruin large parts of its environment to become the leader in this field. The question is Brazil willing to do that? Or will the United States provide newer, cleaner, but more expensive technology to help them do it sustainably? That's the negotiation that's happening right now behind the scenes.
It's fascinating. We are watching the United States actively try to build an economic bloc, an alternative supply chain from scratch. It's us versus them economics.
It is the great fragmentation of the global economy. For 30 years, everything was about integration. Now everything is about splitting into spheres of influence. And if you're a country like El Salvador, Brazil, or Colombia, you have a very difficult choice to make. Which sphere am I in? Or can I play one against the other and benefit from both?
Speaking of straddling both spheres and navigating these incredibly complex relationships, we're going to talk about Colombia and Venezuela in just a moment. But first, we want to remind you that independent analysis like this really does rely on your support.
It absolutely does.
We're listening to the Tech UP 503 podcast. Remember that you can support this independent journalism project via PayPal. The links are in the description. Your contribution helps us keep analyzing these complex global stories.
And honestly, it keeps the lights on and keeps the coffee brewing, which we definitely need on days like today where the news is this dense and this important.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on. Section 4, geopolitics in the Americas. And this is a truly fascinating story because it involves an unlikely trio. Gustavo Petro of Colombia, Donald Trump of the United States, and hovering over the whole meeting, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela.
Talk about a room full of contrasting personalities. I mean, you have the right-wing populist, the former leftist guerrilla, and the authoritarian socialist all in one orbit.
Right. It's mind-boggling. So Colombian President Gustavo Petro visited the White House to meet with Donald Trump. Now, usually these meetings, especially with Trump, are full of press conferences, questions, shouting. This time,
silence.
Total silence. It was a closed-door meeting. No press access during the actual talks. Only photographers were allowed in for a quick photo op.
Oh, that was a calculated move by the handlers. 100%. Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Both Trump and Petro are completely unfiltered. They say what they think, often without a second thought. If you put them in front of a live microphone together, the chances of one of them saying something that causes a major diplomatic incident are, well, they're close to certain.
So they kept them away from the mics to let them make a deal.
Exactly. Keep the theater out of it and focus on the transaction.
And there was definitely a transaction. But first, let's look at the optics, the symbolic part. Petro brought gifts. He brought a wool dress made by artisan communities in Nariño for Melania Trump and a woven basket from Choco.
Which is highly symbolic.
Very. These products are the symbol of the crop substitution program, persuading farmers to grow things for legal products instead of illicit crops like coca. It's Petro's way of saying, look, our strategy of development over just prohibition, it works. We're on the same team.
And Colombia really defended its record on the drug war during this trip. They kept citing the numbers. 2,000 military, police, and judges dead in the fight against the cartels. They're positioning themselves as the United States' best, most reliable strategic ally in the region, despite the massive ideological differences between the leaders.
But let's be real, they didn't fly all the way to Washington to talk about wool dresses.
No, not even close. They met to talk about one thing: oil. This is the financial core of the entire meeting. Donald Trump wants Venezuelan oil on the global market, and he wants it now.
This is the pragmatism we were talking about earlier, taken to the extreme. Trump, who has spent years railing against socialism, now wants to do a deal to get access to the largest oil reserves in the world, which just happened to be in socialist Venezuela.
It's a very simple equation for him. He wants to lower gas prices at home by increasing global supply. And just as importantly, he wants to displace Chinese and Russian influence in the Caribbean. If the United States doesn't buy that Venezuelan oil, China will. It's that simple.
So the deal is already in motion.
It's already moving. We have confirmed reports that 50 million barrels are already being shipped from Venezuela to refineries in Houston.
50 million barrels. That is not a small test shipment. That is a serious flow.
Here's a flow. And the ultimate goal is to get American companies like Chevron and ConocoPhillips to go back into Venezuela and ramp up production. But there's a huge problem. Reality. Specifically, the infrastructure. Venezuela's oil infrastructure is crumbling. PDVSA, the state oil company, has been absolutely hollowed out by years of corruption, mismanagement, and sanctions. You can't just flip a switch and expect things to work after that much neglect.
The pipes are leaking, the refineries are broken.
Everything is broken. It requires a massive injection of capital, of technology, of expertise, and American investors are, understandably, very wary. They're asking, if I invest billions, is my asset safe? Or will it just get seized again the next time politics shifts?
And this is where Colombia comes in. This is Petro's big play.
This is it. Petro offered to help. He offered to be the bridge. There is an existing gas pipeline that runs between Venezuela and Colombia that's been dormant for years. It could be reactivated.
So Colombia positions itself as the transit hub.
The transit hub, the stabilizer, the reliable partner for Venezuelan energy.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant diplomatic play by Petro. He makes himself indispensable to Trump, despite being from the opposite end of the political spectrum. And for Trump, it's purely transactional.
Ideology takes a backseat to energy needs.
Completely. He is showing he's willing to work with Petro, and by extension with Maduro, if it means cheap oil at the pump and a way to check China's influence in America's backyard.
It raises an interesting point. Why does the United States need Venezuelan oil so specifically? I mean, they have a massive oil industry in Texas. Why not just use that?
It's a chemistry problem, actually. It's about the type of crude oil. The giant, complex refineries along the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana were built decades ago specifically to process heavy, sour crude. That's the thick, sludge-like stuff that comes out of Venezuela.
And the oil from the U.S. fracking boom is different.
Totally different. It's light and sweet. It's almost too thin, too high quality for those old refineries to run efficiently. For years, they've been importing heavy crudes from Russia or the Middle East to mix with the light domestic stuff. Getting that heavy crude from next door Venezuela is cheaper, faster, and strategically much safer if you can stomach the politics.
And it seems Donald Trump has a very strong stomach for that kind of politics.
As long as the price at the pump goes down before an election, he's happy.
Okay, let's bring the focus a little closer to home now. Section 5, El Salvador. We have some significant national news today, both on migration and on security.
Starting with the numbers that impact families directly every single day.
Migration. A new data release shows that El Salvador received 16,051 deported citizens in the entirety of 2025.
And the trend line is what's important here. It's moving up.
It is. This represents a 7% increase. That's roughly 1,000 more people compared to 2024.
This is a really crucial data point. We hear so much about the incredible success in security, which is absolutely undeniable. The country is safer than it's been in a generation. But migration is often a lagging economic indicator. This number tells you that people are still leaving or trying to leave, largely because of economic pressures.
And when they come back, that's over 16,000 people who need jobs, who need to be reintegrated into society.
Exactly. It's a huge economic challenge. These are working-age adults suddenly drop back into the local labor market. If the local economy can't absorb them, what happens? They're just going to try and leave again. It creates a cycle. But, there is also an opportunity here if the government can harness it.
How so?
These are people who have often worked for years in the United States. They have skills in construction, in services, in hospitality. Many of them might speak English. They're a potential skilled labor pool.
So it's a potential labor boost, but only if the jobs are there for them to fill.
Correct. And that depends on foreign direct investment, which depends on stability and a clear economic plan.
Speaking of stability in politics, President Bukele continues to hold just massive levels of support. His approval rating now stands at 91.9%, and this is after 6.5 years in power. That is just unheard of in most democracies.
It's politically gravity-defying. Usually by the second term, voter fatigue, scandals, something starts to chip away at that support. Here it seems to be the opposite.
And the relationship with the current United States administration seems to be very strong. Donald Trump publicly thanked President Bukele today. He specifically mentioned that many of the, and I'm quoting, 11,800 murders captured in the United States are now in Salvadoran prisons.
This clarification is really interesting. Trump is using El Salvador as a success story for his own immigration enforcement policies.
Yeah.
He's effectively saying, we caught them, and our partner Bukele locked them up for good. It reinforces their political alliance. It shows that Bukele has managed to align himself perfectly with the security agenda in Washington.
But I wonder, does that branding hurt El Salvador in the long run? Being known internationally as the world's jailer.
It's a classic double-edged sword. In the short term, it solves the security problem, which is the necessary first step to allow for tourism and investment. But you're right, eventually you want to pivot the brand. You want to be known for technology, for beautiful beaches, for world-class coffee, not just for having the biggest and toughest prison on the continent.
On the ground, the security situation remains incredibly tight. The entire month of January closed with just 4 homicides nationwide. And just today, police captured a high-level gang member, a gatillero or gunman, who was found hiding in a false ceiling.
It shows that the mop-up operation is still ongoing. They're finding the last few who went into deep, deep hiding. It really confirms that the state has total territorial control now.
But while physical security is stable, the digital economy is. Well, it's anything but. Let's talk about the Bitcoin strategy.
Yeah, the government is. They're doubling down.
Yeah.
El Salvador is continuing its 1 Bitcoin per day purchase program.
Even today, in this market.
Even today. And we have to remember, today is a major crash.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 6, financial markets. We are calling it Black Thursday for crypto.
It really is. It's ugly out there. Bitcoin plunged right through that big psychological barrier of $70,000. As we speak, it's trading around $67,395. That is a drop of over 7% in just 24 hours.
That is a massive red candle on the chart. What on earth happened?
It's a cascade, a liquidation cascade. Over $800 million in leveraged long positions were liquidated across the market.
Okay, I want to pause there and have you explain liquidation for listeners who might not be active traders. What does that actually mean when a position is liquidated?
Sure. So in the crypto markets, many traders use what's called leverage. They essentially borrow money from the exchange to make a bigger bet on the price going up. Let's say you have $1,000 and you use leverage to borrow another $9,000 so you can buy $10,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Okay, so you're magnifying your bet.
You're magnifying your bet. If Bitcoin goes up, you make a huge profit. But if it goes down, just a little bit, in this case 10%, your initial $1,000 is completely gone. It's wiped out. The exchange panics. To protect themselves, they take the Bitcoin back from you and sell it instantly on the open market to cover their loan.
That's a liquidation.
And when the exchange force sells that Bitcoin to cover their loan,
it pushes the price down even further, which then triggers the next guy's liquidation because now his position is underwater. It creates a domino effect of forced selling. That's why you see these sudden vertical drops on the chart. It's not just people changing their minds and selling, it's a mechanical, automated flush of debt from the system.
But what was the spark? What triggered that initial fear that started the dominoes falling?
Macroeconomics. The sentiment in the market is extreme fear right now. And it goes right back to what we were talking about earlier. The new tariffs, the rare earths alliance, the rising trade tensions with China.
Markets hate uncertainty. They despise it. If big investors think a global trade war is about to start strangling the economy, the first thing they do is pull money out of what they see as risk-on assets. And Bitcoin is the ultimate risk-on asset.
So the whole Trump trade, the idea that markets would boom under his deregulation policies, is that hitting a wall?
It's hitting a hard wall of trade war reality. Tariffs or taxes. They slow down commerce. They create inflation. And a high-risk, high-volatility asset like crypto is the first to react to that kind of global anxiety.
And yet, in the middle of all this, El Salvador keeps buying its 1 Bitcoin per day.
It shows an extreme level of commitment or stubbornness, depending on who you ask. Remember, the IMF has explicitly conditioned future credit on El Salvador not using public funds to buy more crypto. So by buying today on a crash day, the government is sending a very clear message. We don't care what the IMF says. We believe in this asset for the long term. It's a very high-stakes bet. They are dollar cost averaging into a falling market.
Speaking of high stakes in technology, we have another major tech story today, this one with huge geopolitical implications. A massive outage of Starlink terminals all along the Ukrainian front line.
This is a huge, huge deal for the future of warfare.
Elon Musk himself confirmed that the restrictions were put in place at the direct request of Kyiv. They implemented what's called a whitelist.
So what that means is, essentially, unless the unique ID of your specific Starlink terminal is on the pre-approved good list,
Right.
it just doesn't connect. It's a brick.
Right. And the goal was to stop Russian forces from using the hundreds of Starlink terminals they had captured from Ukrainian troops. We know for a fact that Russian troops had been using them to coordinate attacks.
But just think about the incredible implication here. You have a private citizen, a billionaire CEO, Elon Musk, who can effectively flip a switch and turn off military communications in the middle of an active war zone.
It highlights the massive dependency.
It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that modern defense is now completely and utterly reliant on the private tech sector. The Pentagon isn't providing the internet on the battlefield. A private company is. And that company can turn it off or modify its service based on its own policies or a request from one side. It completely blurs the line between corporate policy and national security.
It raises this massive question about sovereignty, doesn't it? If you are a country fighting a war for your very existence, do you really want your most critical communications infrastructure to be owned and operated by a third party in another country?
You absolutely don't want it, but you might not have a choice. The pace of innovation in the private sector is just moving so much faster than in the military-industrial complex. Starlink is simply better, cheaper, and more available than anything the military has on its own, so they have to use it. It is yet another form of this New Deal we're seeing globally, where the lines between states and powerful corporations become almost indistinguishable.
It's a brave new world, to say the least. Okay, let's take a breath and move to our final section, Section 7. United States domestic files and some cultural notes. Because even in the middle of nuclear threats and market crashes, people are still talking about the Epstein files.
The story that just never, ever truly goes away.
The Department of Justice released millions of files today. We are seeing 43 names of victims revealed, which has sparked a lot of controversy over privacy, and rightly so.
Yeah, that's a very difficult ethical line to walk. These are victims. They didn't ask for this public exposure.
But the headlines, inevitably, are all focused on the powerful men mentioned in the documents. Donald Trump appears 20 times.
And this is where we need to be so precise, as analysts and as citizens.
Exactly. It is critical to distinguish between being mentioned in a file and being accused of a crime. The references to Trump are mostly vague mentions of him being at events on flight logs from years ago. He has publicly claimed for years that he banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club.
And the Department of Justice itself has stated they don't expect any new indictments for third parties to come from this document release, simply due to a lack of sufficient prosecutable evidence. It's a lot of smoke, and it looks terrible, but legally, the fire might be out. Prosecutors are looking for crimes that can be proven in court beyond a reasonable doubt, not just bad associations.
Bill and Hillary Clinton are also mentioned. There's a note that Hillary was at one point going to be called to testify. It's really just a stark reminder of how deeply embedded Jeffrey Epstein was in the most elite circles of power in the 90s and 2000s.
It casts a very long, dark shadow over the entire political establishment, both Democrat and Republican. It just breeds cynicism. It makes everyday people feel like the elites are all playing by a completely different set of rules.
Which is why sometimes you just need a healthy distraction. Let's talk about something a bit later. Let's talk about Shakira.
The residency in El Salvador. A welcome change of pace.
It is happening. The stage setup at the stadium is almost complete. But what I love about this story isn't just the music itself, it's the microeconomy that is springing up all around it.
It's the Shakira effect.
Yeah.
The Shakira economy.
Literally.
Yeah.
You have a local entrepreneurs on the streets selling custom printed shirts. You have a local restaurant owner, a guy named Don Pedro, who's gone viral online because he publicly invited her to come have a cup of coffee at his place. Even a local priest is getting famous on social media just for posting a picture of his ticket and saying he's going to the concert.
It paints a picture of a country that is normalizing, a country that's excited. A few years ago, the idea of a global superstar doing a multi-night residency in San Salvador might have seemed impossible because of security concerns.
Yeah.
Now, it's the biggest party in town. It really shows a country trying to pivot its entire brand towards tourism and entertainment.
And honestly, with the news we started with today, nuclear treaty expirations, trade wars, I think we could all use a little bit of dancing.
We certainly could. It's good for the soul, and it's very good for the local economy.
So we have covered a huge amount of ground today. Let's try and wrap this up. Section 8, conclusion. What does all of this mean when you put it together?
If we zoom out from all the details, I see three really big, overarching themes emerging from today's news.
Go ahead.
First, and most starkly, The world is physically less safe today than it was yesterday. The nuclear guardrails are gone. We are now relying solely on the responsible behavior of nations that are actively hostile toward each other. That's a very fragile kind of peace.
The verification is gone, so the trust is gone.
The trust is completely gone. Second, the global economy is fragmenting. The idea of the global village is dead. We are splitting into competing blocks. You have the United States-Japan bloc on minerals and high-tech, and you have the China-Russia bloc. And they are using tools of managed trade, price floors, sanctions, tariffs to fight each other.
The free market's being replaced by strategic industrial policy.
It is. And third, Latin America is becoming the key pivot point in this new game. Whether it's Venezuelan oil or Brazilian rare earths or Colombian diplomacy, the region is realizing it has immense leverage. And they're starting to negotiate with the giants, getting pragmatic and playing one side against the other.
It's a fascinating, terrifying, and rapidly changing landscape. And I want to leave you, our listener, with this final thought. We are seeing a world where the idea of free trade is being decisively replaced by managed trade. We have price floors on minerals designed specifically to hurt China. We have sanctions on oil that get lifted the second we need the barrels. We have whitelists for the internet and war zones controlled by a single company.
The rules are being rewritten in real time right in front of us.
Exactly. So if the fundamental rules of the global game are changing, if the invisible hand of the market is being replaced by the very visible iron fist of the state, how does a small player, a small country like El Salvador, or just a regular investor like you protect themselves? That is the question you need to be asking as you look at your portfolio and your plans for the rest of 2026.
Diversify, stay informed, and maybe don't bet everything on a single political or economic outcome. The volatility is here to stay.
Wise words. We've reached the end of this deep dive. Don't forget to support TechUP 503 via PayPal to keep these episodes coming. Thank you for listening, and until next time.
Stay safe out there.